And also joining us on this broadcast is Mr. Sandeep Ghosh, who's an author and a political commentator, and is joining us live on this broadcast. Mr. Ghosh, as we look back at the legacy of the former Indian Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he was in many ways the architect of the policy of liberalization that was ushered into the Indian economy in 1991. How different do you think the Indian economy would have been if Manmohan Singh had not been at the helm of affairs at that very crucial juncture?
To be honest, I have a little bit of difference or reservation with the term architect. I wouldn't call him the architect, but India took those reform measures under kind of a duress, under a lot of pressure from international agencies like IMF. But he certainly oversaw the rollout and implementation of that. And that's why I consider Dr. Manmohan Singh one of our finest technocrats. So if you were to call as a finance minister and later as a prime minister, I would say he's India's first and perhaps the only technocrat prime minister. That is his strength. He was not a politician in that conventional sense of the word. He was not a mass leader. Some people compare him to being a CEO. I don't think I can call him a CEO because that requires certain different things. But he was a technocrat par excellence. And that is his strength, and there is no taking away from his contribution. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to undermine his contribution or his legacy. But those are his strengths, and that is what we must look at him for. While his tenure as finance minister had a lot of economic reforms, I must be honest to confess that I'm disappointed at the lack of reforms, economic reforms, during his tenure as prime minister.
Right. So, and also talking about during the term as the Prime Minister of India, he was one of those leaders who was crucial in ensuring that India had a right to information. He brought in the direct benefits transfers and linking the Aadhaar card scheme so that the leakages that were happening in the Indian economy effectively ended. He also was the person who was instrumental in signing the nuclear deal with the United States of America that has paved the way for a lot of other developments. So in your assessment, how do you look at the legacy of Dr. Manmohan Singh?
Dr. Manmohan Singh, in the clip you played, he said that history would be kinder to him than present contemporary times, but I think you'd be more than kind to say that he plugged the leakages. He certainly conceived the UIA scheme, but he didn't implement Aadhaar. Aadhaar was implemented after his term.
The idea was effectively, and that is where the leakage existence by the time it was 2030. You have to give it to him for the idea.
Yeah,
the implementation,
but don't jump to say that he plugged the leakages. In fact, his tenure is known for what you call the euphemistically perceived corruption. There was a lot more leakages during his term, which could be debatable. So you use the term quote unquote perceived, but that was there. So let's not. He conceived it, but that's where I think the difference between a technocrat and a politician differs, because a politician has the will to carry it forward. That's what Modi was able to do. Perhaps Mr.
This
Singh
is not a comparison. There's not a comparison between Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, and Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister. You're looking at the legacy
it's a comparison. It's a comparison between a politician and a technocrat. That's a distinction I'm making.
Right.
So he's a great technocrat. He conceived ideas, but probably didn't carry them through the conclusion. And that is where one must be realistic in the assessment.
Yep. Now, a lot of people would be looking at, one of the key reform measures that was brought in, that was a right to information. Prior to that, government data, the way the government functioned, that was all kept under the wraps. How crucial do you think was the right to information for the Indian society as such to connect with India's political class?
I think it's definitely a good move to formalize it. Though personally, I don't believe that there was an issue with RTI. India had an issue there, or it has an issue now, in terms of right to information compared to a lot of other societies where there is much more information is much more guarded, despite some countries may have the thing. But those were certainly moves which you just listed, whether it's the right to information, right to education, to some extent the NHRM, what you talked about. Those were there. So there was definitely a kind of a liberal or a socialistic slant to his governance. Those were the priorities. And that's what people sometimes attribute to the NSC, which was National Advisory Council, which was guiding Dr. Manmohan Singh's government there. And so the imprint of those policies were clear during his term.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ghosh, for joining us. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.